So I was talking with my friend Dean the other day, and he kept referring to Jenny. And I finally had to stop him and say, "Who is this Jenny you're referring to?" And it turns out she was a fictitious character, but she was representative of the kinds of clients that we run into and work with. And Jenny was a person who was initially overwhelmed by the whole process of either buying a house. She might be a first-time home buyer or might have done it before but forgot all about it. I can say that happened to me. I bought 3 houses in my lifetime. I can account for 3 houses that I bought, but each time I forgot, what was involved with the process, because it was always a little different. There was quite a bit of time in between. You're working with different people, and things evolve over time. So I think first house and second house did not have a buyer's agent. Third house, my current home, did have a buyer's agent. So it was quite a bit different, and there was a lot that I was not subjected to in terms of details. It just got taken care of, and I was, showed up where I was supposed to be, signed where I was supposed to sign, wrote that check. If you go some length of time in between, when you've bought a house and sold a house, you don't remember the process, and it becomes overwhelming and confusing. I remember a story, I love this one. For years, my mom talked about wanting to travel abroad, but couldn't seem to, it'll never happen or it'll be someday, always someday. Until a good friend of hers was given a trip to London as a gift from a group that she led. So anyway, this friend of my mom's was going to go to London with her husband, and my mom said, "Oh, how does that happen?" She says, "Well, Joan, why don't you, here's the travel agent, here's his phone number, give him a call, they take care of all the details." So lickety split, mom's on that phone, and next thing I know, she and dad went with her friend and that couple, and the 4 of them went to London, had a wonderful time. Still hear about it from time to time. This was probably 25 years ago, but she got there because it's like anything else. It's you do it step by step by step, and pretty soon, you get to London or you buy a house. So this was the thing about Jenny that my friend Dean was talking about, and that is we work in this all the time. We don't really give it a whole lot of thought. We just say, okay, whether you've got a piece of paper or you've got it up here, we know what the basic steps are for buying a house. And it's really, I always tell people the first thing you want to know really is you have to know what you can afford, and then you have to decide how much you want to spend. Obviously one number is here and the second one could be right there with it, or what I tell people is just you have to decide if you really want to go the max amount or if you are comfortable with some lesser amount. But on that basis, you start looking for homes within this price range. And there's all the other factors like, why the move, why this house, is it your first one? Are you getting a bigger house? Are you getting a smaller one? Families grow, families shrink, kids go off, or maybe you don't have them, job change, all kinds of things. But you've got your criteria. The important one is, and the first one I tell everybody is, talk to a loan officer or a lending agent and find out what you qualify to borrow, and then we'll get started on the process. There's a whole lot of steps in there. I mean, as a buyer's agent, I've shown as few as 1 house and the people say, that's it, that's the one we want. I've shown as many as 42. I don't remember actually walking inside all 42 of those, but I do know that it was a long process before the buyer finally figured out, oh, this is what's important, therefore I need to be here. And what was in the house, other than large enough for his family, which he was moving up from North Carolina, other than that, it was more of the location, which for him was he wanted neighbors and he wanted a neighborhood that he felt was safe for his kids, because he worked some long and strange hours. He was an EMT and he flew the recovery helicopter. So he wanted to have a place where the kids could go out on the sidewalk, they'd be safe because traffic wouldn't be that fast, and they knew the neighbors and et cetera, et cetera. But That came about after looking at 42 houses. So it's a process, and I'm a little bit better now as far as helping people zero in on what they're looking for. And again, with buyers, it's always, we start here, you end up here. So the needs change, the priorities change, what's important changes, but that's also part of the process. So, we find out what they can afford. We have an interview, we talk, we find out what the other criteria, what's important to them at this moment in time. What I have found is that people don't know till they get in the process and put their attention on it, what's really important to them. And my job is to help get them through that process so it's as quick and smooth and painless as possible, because it's an exciting time for people, and it's also an anxious time because, a lot of times they're under a time crunch. They've got a certain amount of time to find that house. So there's that. Then once the house is found, then you have to make the offer. You might be competing with others because, again, I tell all my buyers, regardless of the market, I say, find out what you can spend, and then once you see the house, that's it. You might look at a dozen houses before you find the one that works for you. But once you know it, It's like right here, and be prepared to move on it quickly because you may be competing with others. And that's when the fun starts, because I get to negotiate. I get to find out, okay, what's important to the seller? Tell the buyer that. What's important to the buyer? Share that with the seller. In other words, we want to find an agreement. I want to make my buyer happy at the best possible price, most house. Those are superlatives, but that's really what we work toward. And knowing what's important to the seller it's just a big leg up on getting under contract. Once we're under contract, it's pretty much a checklist kind of thing, although I will say problems come up. That's just the nature of the business. That's why we're here, because I'm not going to say I've seen every problem. Any realtor worth his or her salt will tell you every deal is a little different, and just when you think you've seen everything, something comes up that's like, oh my God, that's never happened before. So the important thing is that we're in the business of solving problems to get to the goal, which is putting the buyer in the house that serves their purposes and fulfills their needs. So that's what we do for Jenny. The lender's involved in that, home inspectors, make sure there's nothing hidden there in the house that, you buy a house and there's something there that you don't know about, and then, it can cost you a lot of money or some regret, for years. But anyway, that's home inspection. We want to make sure it's healthy. So if it's on a well, we get it tested for bacteria and maybe other things. VA likes to test for heavy metals. We know how to do all that. We know who to go to get these tests done and these inspections and so on and so forth. I mean, it's a whole list. If you want to see it, let me know and I'll email it to you, or I'll hold it up in another video or something. But bottom line is we've got these standard things we look for, and then as things get discovered and come up, and just say, okay, here's what we're dealing with, here's what we can do about it. Because truly every problem has one or more solutions, and our job is to figure out what those solutions are, present them to our clients, and say, which way would you like to proceed? Sometimes the solution is backing out, and I've had some clients where they've gone through 2 or 3 properties before they finally find the one that works. If I know the buyer's committed to finding a house, then my job is to make sure that we don't stop until that gets done. And at the end of the day, when we're at the closing table and they're signing everything, a stack of papers like that, especially, banks are involved, and quite literally it can be that thick, and it can take, an hour. At that point, that's where all the stress melts away. That's where everybody's smiling because we've reached the goal. And I always like being able to hand over the keys and say, congratulations, you've made it. So anyway, that's how we help the Jennies of the world, and the Marcuses, and the single people, and the couples, and the families, and you name it. We're here to help people get houses, find the next house and the next place that they need to move into and live, so that they can live the life that they want to live. It can be simple, it can be frustrating, it can be stressful, and it can be very enjoyable and rewarding. You never know, but we're here to make it as positive an experience for people as possible. So that's it. Got any questions? Leave them down below. Hit that like and subscribe. We like having people do that. And till next time, have a good one.